you for joining us today in our webinar with Global Experience Ontario, helping internationally trained individuals for their professional pathway in Ontario. My name is Sarah, and I'm from Global Talent Bridge, which is an initiative of World Education Services, WES, and I'm joined today with Eva from Global Experience Ontario, GEO. So Global Talent Bridge is a newer initiative of WES where we're really building resources for newcomers and people overseas to hear about information and resources that are available. Global Experience Ontario, Eva will talk about more, but it's a one-stop center that offers a range of services to help internationally trained professionals how to qualify for different professions in Ontario. So I'm very, very pleased to have Eva here today to present this information. So without further delays, I will pass it to Eva.
Thank you, Sarah. So hi, everyone. As Sarah mentioned, my name is Eva, and I am with Global Experience Ontario. And today, I am going to talk to you about a few things. So I'm going to talk to you about Global Experience Ontario. I'm going to talk to you about the regulated professions and the licensing processes. I'm going to talk to you about some support programs and services that are available to help you. And at the end, we will answer some of your questions. Please, again, feel free to submit your questions using the chat box. And at the end, we will have a question and answer period. Before I begin, I wanted to go over some frequently asked questions that we at GEO receive from our clients. And these are the sort of questions that we can help you with. So for example, people ask us, is my profession a regulated occupation or not? Can I work without a license? Where do I begin the process? Who do I contact? What documents do I need? Do I need originals, photocopies? What about translation? Do I need to have my academic credentials assessed? What language level is required? Are there any practical or technical exams? And how do I prepare for them? How much does the whole process cost? How long does it take? Is there any financial assistance available for me? How can I get work experience? And are there any support programs to help me? So these are questions with which we help our clients, and we hear those questions very frequently. So hopefully the presentation that I'm going to share with you will answer these questions for you. So moving on, I wanted to talk to you briefly about Global Experience Ontario and who we are. So Global Experience Ontario is an information center located in Toronto. We can guide you if you want to be licensed in a regulated profession or a skilled trade in Ontario. Based on your needs, we can refer you to a range of support programs and services that may help you find work in your field. We're specialized in non-health regulated professions and skilled trades. Also, we provide support to community agencies that serve immigrants. All of our services are free and offered by email, phone, and in person. And we also deliver webinars like the one you're currently attending, as well as video calls in which clients can speak directly with a staff member about their specific situation. So GEO's website is at the bottom of your screen. So please take some time to explore our website, as there is a lot of useful information available there for you. We have a number of resources to help newcomers. We have career maps in French and English for non-health regulated professions, and those documents have all been updated. So a career map is basically a step-by-step document which outlines the licensing process in a number of regulated professions in Ontario. We also have fact sheets for each of the 22 compulsory trades in Ontario. We have profession-specific resources on program supports and services, such as information on credential assessment services, bridge training programs, language training programs, mentoring, and internships. We also have information about alternative careers, and that will be coming to our website soon. So I wanted to also mention that the fact sheets for the trades, for the 22 compulsory trades, are available in 10 additional languages other than English and French on our website. And again, the direct link is at the bottom of your screen if you want to view any of our resources. So here on the screen right now, you have the non-health regulated professions in Ontario. So GEO serves clients in these professions. And basically, these are professions in which you require a license in order to work. And they are all regulated by a regulatory body, and I will talk more about this in a little bit. On the next slide, you see the 22 compulsory trades in Ontario. So what this means is that for each one of those trades, you require a certificate in order to work. So you cannot work in any of these trades without having a certificate. The compulsory trades in Ontario are regulated by the Ontario College of Trades. So this regulatory body issues licenses for all of these trades. So if you are interested in getting a certificate in any of these trades, please feel free to contact the Ontario College of Trades for more information. So here on the screen are the health-regulated professions in Ontario. So as I mentioned, GEO deals with non-health professions, and these are the health-regulated professions. So in all of these health professions, you require a license in order to practice. You are unable to practice or work in those occupations without being properly licensed. And the organization which can provide you assistance is HealthForce Ontario. So if you are an internationally educated health professional, please contact HealthForce Ontario for information. HealthForce Ontario, or HFO, is set up to offer case management, whereas GEO is set up to provide information and referral services only. For the clients in the health professions, HFO can support them through their journey to licensure by case managing their files, and GEO supports clients in the non-health profession with information and referral. So I wanted to take some time this morning and talk about what it means if a profession is regulated. So in Canada, each province has its own system for regulating professions. And this system of regulation allows Canada to ensure the safety of the public by preventing those without proper training from taking jobs where they could cause harm. So in other words, a regulated profession is controlled by law, and the reason for that is that in those particular professions there is a risk to public health and safety, so the government has decided that for those particular professions there needs to be regulation in place in order to protect the public. So for all regulated professions, you must register with a regulatory body and obtain a license or a certificate in order to legally work in that profession. So some professions have protected titles, and other professions have protected titles and acts. So to give you an example, if a profession has a protected title, that means that you can do some of the work without a license, but you cannot use the professional title. Whereas professions that have protected titles and acts, you can neither use the title nor do the work without a license. And an example are all the health professions, so physicians, dentists, and lawyers in the non-health side. So for those particular occupations, you cannot use the title and you cannot do the work without being properly licensed. So if you are not licensed by a regulatory body, let's say you're an engineer and you're not licensed by Professional Engineers Ontario, and you present yourself as an engineer or put on your resume that you're an engineer, you can actually get in a lot of trouble because that is illegal. You cannot say that you're an engineer even if you used to be an engineer in your home country. As soon as you enter Ontario, you are not to misrepresent yourself as an engineer, because that implies that you are a licensed engineer by the Ontario regulatory body, and this is illegal. So you can say that you used to be an engineer in your home country, that you're an engineering graduate. You can say a variety of different things on your resumes, but you cannot say that you're an engineer. So I hope that, that this makes sense. All regulated professions are controlled by regulatory bodies. So there are right now over 40 regulatory bodies in Ontario, and they each regulate at least one regulated profession. In some cases, they regulate two. For example, the regulatory body for lawyers also regulates paralegals. So some regulatory bodies have more than one occupation. The regulatory bodies are responsible for setting entry requirements, for setting professional standards, issuing licenses and certificates, assuring the quality of practice of members, investigating complaints, and disciplining members when necessary. So these are the functions of the regulatory body. Regulatory bodies are composed of members of the profession themselves, so they are a self-regulating organization. So it means that the regulatory body for engineers is composed of professional engineers, and so on. Individuals must be licensed in the province in which they would like to work. So each province has its own regulatory bodies. Province and territories may have different requirements for professions, and therefore you need to be licensed in the province in which you need to work. If you want to move between provinces, it will be much easier for you to get a license in the new province than it would be when you're coming from a different country, but you still have to go through the process of getting a license in that province. So I hope that that this makes sense. I also wanted to take a moment and distinguish between regulatory bodies and professional associations, because in some cases those two can be confused. Let's take an example of engineering. So the regulatory body is called Professional Engineers Ontario, and there is a professional association called OSPE, the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers. So the difference is that regulatory bodies are composed of members, and they are there to protect the public and to issue licenses, whereas professional associations are often there to help the members of the profession. So professional associations may help you with things like information sharing, preparing for exams, job search. They are really there to support the members, whereas the regulatory body is there to support and protect the public. So I hope that this is clear, because we know that in a lot of cases it's a little bit confusing what the difference is between those two. So I hope that that clarifies it. Okay, moving on. So as I said, in regulated professions, people need to have a license in order to work. So on this slide, I wanted to distinguish between the different types of regulated professions. So in most regulated professions or trades, yes, you must have a license or certificate from a regulatory body in order to legally work. However, so we can see this in the first box, which is the nurses, doctors, most healthcare professionals. So in those types of professions, you absolutely cannot do the work without having a license. So we call this a profession with a regulated title and regulated acts. There is a second category in which you can work under the supervision of a licensed professional if you yourself don't have a license. And an example is engineers and architects. So what this means is that you can decide to not get a license, and you can still work in your field, you can still work in your occupation, but all of your work has to be supervised by a licensed engineer or a licensed architect. And you will not be able to sign off or approve projects, which professional engineers can do, but you can still very much do the work of an engineer. And there is a third category, such as accounting, where you are able to do a lot of the work of the profession, but not get a license. The only thing you cannot do is use the professional title. So you can do a lot of the work, such as taxation, for example, which an actual accountant would do. You can say that you are doing accounting work, but you cannot use the professional title of chartered professional accountant. So you can still say that you are doing accounting work, you can do all of the same work or most of the same work, but you cannot use the professional title. So it's very important to understand where your profession falls within these three categories, because depending on that, you will have a variety of options available to you. You may realize that you must get a license, or you may realize that there are ways for you to work in your occupation without getting a license. And then you can choose on what you decide to do. Okay, moving on. I'm going to now start talking about licensing. So the licensing pathway for internationally trained professional varies depending on the regulatory body and on their profession. But most of them have a pathway like what we see here on this diagram. So you send in an application, you undergo a credential assessment, you complete a language assessment, you complete any required exams, you complete any training or upgrading to address any gaps, and in the end, you become licensed. So each regulatory body has a slightly different licensing process. However, majority of them have these common elements. So I am just presenting this to you so that you can see what you may have to go through when you start your licensing process. Now, it's important to know that depending on your profession, this process can be started pre-arrival in a lot of cases. You will have to check with your regulatory body, and you will have to check out their website. But usually the application stage can be started pre-arrival or still from your home country. Sometimes the credential assessment will even be done pre-arrival. In some cases, the language assessment may be done pre-arrival. Usually the exams and the training and upgrading need to happen when you are here in Canada. But again, this all slightly varies by regulatory body. In some professions, for example, early childhood educator, you can actually get licensed while you're still in your home country. So we really encourage you to find out the regulatory body for your profession, and then to check out on their website which steps of the process can be done pre-arrival, because that will save you a lot of time. You will have more freedom in terms of looking for documents, locating the types of documents you need in order to fill out your application while you're still in your home country. It's much more difficult to do that from Canada. So let's move on. So as I said, the academic credential assessment is a common element in all regulatory bodies and all licensing processes. The regulatory body will always want to take a look at your credentials, and they will always want to see where you stand in comparison to an Ontario educated candidate for a license. And their goal is to ensure that what you studied and trained for equals what a an Ontario trained candidate has studied. They want to make sure that there are no gaps between those two. So academic credential assessment is performed in different ways depending on your regulatory body. And again, the only way to know what is acceptable for your particular regulatory body is to check their website or to contact them. So there are three types of regulatory bodies preferences when it comes to credential assessment. The first one is for them to perform their own academic credential assessment. And an examples of those are Professional Engineers Ontario and the Ontario College of Teachers. So those two regulatory bodies and many others insist on performing their own credential assessment. A lot of people ask us whether they can use the credential assessment they did for immigration purposes for the purpose of licensing. And in these cases, the answer would be no. And the reason behind that is that the regulatory body is looking for very specific points in your academics. They're looking often at a course-by-course analysis. They're looking for your syllabus. They really want to see what you studied very specifically. They will want to perform their own credential assessment. Now, there are other regulatory bodies, such as the College of Early Childhood Educators or the Law Society of Upper Canada, and those use third-party assessment services. Again, this will be very clearly stated on their website. They will tell you what the process is. So for those regulatory bodies, they prefer to use third-party assessment services. And the third type of regulatory bodies require a combination of both internal and external assessments. So they will perform a part of the credential assessment in-house, such as the Association of Professional Geoscientists of Ontario. So they will do part of the assessment in-house, and they will accept part of the assessment from a third-party assessment service, such as WES, for example. So it's very important for you to pay close attention to what your regulatory body accepts and to follow their requirements. There are different types of assessments. There's authentication, level of degree, and course by course. So again, in order to know which type of assessment your regulatory body wants, we encourage you to very carefully review their website. You can also find this information in the career maps, which I mentioned earlier. On our website, we have career maps for all the non-health regulated professions. So if you open up the career map for your profession, you will find out what type of academic credential assessment your regulatory body accepts, and you can begin the process. Moving on to documents. So it's very important to identify what type of documents are required by your regulatory body. So the gathering of documents is often the most lengthy and most time-consuming part of the licensing process. So it's very important to pay close attention to this. Double-check the required format and mode of submission. So does your what exactly do your documents need to show? Do they need to show your course-by-course do they need to show all the courses that you took? Do they need to show course descriptions? This all varies by regulatory body, so you need to really pay attention to what is expected. Does the regulatory body accept originals, or do they accept copies as well? So this is very important. Do they need to be sent directly from your university or college or from your employers, or will the regulatory body accept the document from you directly? And also, what kind of translation is required? Does the translation of your documents need to be certified or not? Usually, documents which are not on English or French need to be translated. So a lot of regulatory bodies require you to use only certified translators, and they have very clear guidelines as to what translators they will accept. Now, if you do any of this wrong, in other words, if you don't follow the instructions of the regulatory body, this may slow down the licensing process for you. So things like incomplete application forms, transcripts not sent directly from your educational institution, missing information, sending copies instead of sealed originals, and sending documents which have not been translated. So all of these things can really slow down the process for you. So we highly encourage you to pay very close attention to what your regulatory body is expecting and following those instructions. You can find this information, again, in the career map. So find the career map for your profession and then go to a page called Documents and please just see what is required of you. This stage is much easier to complete if you're still back home, because it's easier for you to gather the documents when you're back home rather than when you arrive in Canada. Then it becomes very difficult. So the sooner you start this, the better. Fees and related costs. So fees vary for each profession. On this slide, we just want to point out the various fees you may have to pay. And here we have listed an example of the engineering profession current fees. So you have an application fee, you have an examination fee, final registration fee, and annual membership fee. So keep in mind that all regulatory bodies charge annual membership fees. And what that basically means is that if you want to remain a member, if you want to keep your license, each year you have to pay a membership fee. As I mentioned, regulatory bodies are self-funded and self-governing organizations, so they fund themselves through the fees paid by their members. So each regulatory body's fees will differ. So for the latest fees, check out the website for a regulatory body, or the career map as well has them. Now, we wanted to point out that besides these official or formal fees, there will be what we call related costs, and those are often not listed. So things like paying for transcripts, paying for translation of documents, paying for language tests, paying for previous exam materials to prepare for exams. So these are all related or hidden costs, which will also be often incurred by the applicant. So keep in mind that what's on the website is only part of the story in terms of costs. There will often be more costs associated with getting licensed. So the licensing process can be expensive, and for a lot of people, this is a deterrent to licensing. It keeps them from completing the licensing process. I will take a moment later on to talk about some financial assistance available for licensing in case you're interested in that. Timeline. So a very common question that we get is, how long is it going to take? So how long does the licensing process take? And the answer to this is that the amount of time it takes varies by profession, and it varies from one individual to the next. What we can tell you is factors that will affect your processing time. So for example, how long does it take you to obtain and submit all necessary documents? As I said, this part often takes a really long time, so the sooner you begin, the better. How long does it take your regulatory body to perform the credential assessment? Usually they will tell you exactly how long it takes them ahead of time. So you can count on this time being somewhat predictable. How long will it take you to then pass all necessary exams? So academic exams, technical exams, professional practice exams. It depends on how long you take to pass all of those exams. Some of them are only offered once or twice a year, so if you don't pass the first time, you often have to wait a full year to do it again. How long will it take you to meet all work experience requirements and upgrading? So if the regulatory body identifies a number of courses that you need to take before you can get licensed, how long is it going to take you to complete those courses? These are things that will all affect the timeline and the licensing process. So again, as I mentioned, the sooner you begin the process, the better. If you can begin it before you arrive to Canada, that's great. But be prepared that licensing does take time, and it can vary from a few months to years. Okay, so I'm going to spend the remainder of our time here to talk about support programs. So we have many programs and services that can help you work in Ontario, such as language training, bridge training, internships and mentorships, and I will talk about those in the following slides. A high level of proficiency in English or French is needed to work in a regulated profession. So some regulatory bodies have specific requirements of what language level you need to be at before you get a license, whereas others don't have a specific requirement. For example, engineering doesn't have a preset language level that you need to meet before they give you a license. Now, that doesn't mean that your language level can be very poor, because throughout the licensing process, you will be faced with exams and meetings and interviews and things like that. So they will be testing your language level indirectly. So this is why language training is very important. If you do need help with your language skills, the government offers free classes. They're offered at a range of different levels, general to more advanced. Some of this training is specific to different occupations. This might include technical terminology and the language that is used in the workplace. If you're interested in language training, you can have your language assessed when you arrive in Ontario at one of several assessment centers across the province. Then, based on your assessment results and your goals, they will tell you what your options are. The assessment centers are listed at the link that I am providing you here. So the first link gives you the assessment centers that you can contact in order to have a formal assessment done of your language level. And for more information on language training in general, you can visit the second link, which is the last bullet on this slide. So this is for more general information when it comes to language training in Ontario. Looking for a job in Canada is different than looking for a job in other countries. All countries have their unique approaches. In Ontario, there are government-funded centers across the province that help people find work, and those are called Employment Ontario centers. They can help you with resume preparation, interview skills, job search workshops, information sessions, counseling, career planning, and placement services. If you visit the website, the first website that we're providing you here, you can find services for different geographic locations by typing in the postal code. So if you know where you will be living in Ontario, or if you're already in Ontario, you can use your postal code to find the center closest to you, and then you can contact them for free employment counseling. There is also a program called the Job Search Workshops. So these are workshops that cover all aspects of how to find a job. So things like planning the steps in your job search process, finding job postings and applying for jobs, understanding what employers want, resume preparation, and interviewing. So these are currently offered in 23 cities across Ontario. And you can search the website, the second website here, for the locations. If you're interested, you can join the location closest to you. Bridge training programs. So these are designed to help newcomers work in their field in Ontario. So these programs help you with workplace experience, skills training or targeted academic training programs, preparation for a license or certification examination, communications and language training for specific occupations. So bridge training programs basically bridge the gap between what training and experience you already have and what employers in Ontario are looking for. Most of these programs are in Toronto, but there are some in other cities in Ontario. Some of them are a few weeks long and others are over a year long. You can go to the link on this slide and search by profession for all the currently available bridging programs for your profession. If you identify a program that you like, you should contact that program at the details provided there to find out how long it is, to find out if there is a cost and how much it costs. Some programs are free, whereas some can be quite costly. Financial assistance may be available and to those who are eligible, and I will mention the link a little bit later. I also wanted to mention that for people who are looking to get licensed in a regulated profession, and you find a bridge training program which helps with licensing or which is specific to your profession, we encourage you to always contact the regulatory body first before joining any program. It's very important that you speak with them first in order to see whether you even need a program. We don't want you to waste your time and money on a program that you may not even need. So if you're thinking of joining a bridging program, always consult the regulatory body first to get their opinion on it. Internship programs. So when you're looking for a job in Ontario, many employers ask for work experience. This slide shows several internship programs that are designed for immigrants and can help you gain work experience in Ontario. You may apply from overseas for some of these programs, for example, the first one, the Career Edge program. So on this slide, you see 4 different internship programs and some additional information on each and the link on where you can get more information. So feel free to look into them a little bit deeper. Internships are basically paid workplace experience matching your skills, which will help you with gaining Canadian work experience, getting professional references, getting something good on your resume, and so on. So internship programs are great. It's worth noting that they are very competitive, but they have helped a lot of people with licensing and with finding good employment in their field. Mentorship programs. So mentoring programs provide newcomers with networking opportunities and a better understanding of professional practice, job search strategies, workplace culture, and industry trends. They match participants with an established professional, usually someone at the participant's level or higher, who can provide them with advice and professional guidance. Mentors can give mentees information about the licensing or certification process, or about employment and strategies for looking for jobs and preparing for interviews. One mentoring program is called Canada InfoNet. This is specifically for people in the pre-arrival stage before they come to Canada. So partnerships are occupation-specific and last for about 10 weeks. They can be one-on-one or in a group. The focus of discussion is on the licensing certification process for your profession, the local labor market, and resume preparation. This program is also for people, it's available to people who participate in the Canadian Immigration Integration Project or the Canadian Orientation Abroad program. The Mentoring Partnership is another mentoring program which offers one-on-one, in-person mentoring upon arrival to the Greater Toronto area, and the matches are around 16 weeks long. So these mentoring programs have some eligibility criteria, so go on the website for more information. Networking is extremely important in Ontario. Most jobs are not advertised in the media, and some studies indicate that about 80% of all available jobs are not advertised, and that hiring is done in different ways, such as by connections and networks. So you need to build your own professional network. And this is where these professional immigrant networks can help. They're called PINs. So these are immigrant organizations which focus around a certain occupation, or they focus around people being from the same ethnic background. There's different types of PINs, but they're there to help people on their professional journey. People support each other through joining a PIN. If you're interested, there are some examples here on the slide. If you're interested, you can search their website, the networksforimmigrants.ca, and you will see a list of all existing PINs. You can find out more about them, and you can actually join one if you're interested. I spoke about professional associations in the beginning of my presentation, and here I am giving you examples of some. It's very important to stay connected to professional associations related to your occupation. They often post job opportunities on their websites. There's a lot of information about the profession. As I said, professional associations are there to support members of the profession. So there are associations, professional associations available for majority of sectors. So find out if there's one that exists in your field, and definitely stay on top of it. Check their website frequently, as that will really help you on your job search. Volunteering is extremely important in Canada, and again, this comes back to having to build your own professional network. It will also gain you professional references, improve your resume, find out about those hidden job opportunities Volunteering doesn't need to be full-time. You can volunteer once a week or a few times per month. So it's something that has helped a lot of people in finding a suitable job. So here I have 3 websites for volunteering. They have weekly postings available. So if you're interested, please go to these sites for more information. I also wanted to mention alternative careers. So the licensing process for regulated professions may take a long time. And in the meantime, it's important to look into alternative careers or related occupations for your sector. Those are professions or occupations where you can use your existing skills, but you don't require to necessarily have a license in order to work, and they offer you more immediate employment. There is a website which is at the bottom of your screen here, settlement.org, and they have information on a lot of alternative careers for different professions. So it's something to think about. You may decide that the licensing process is taking too long and you need some employment in the meantime, or you may decide that you don't want to get licensed at all and you may want to pursue our alternative careers. So alternative careers are a great way to find immediate employment or quicker employment. So you can apply your existing skills in a variety of sectors, and we have given you some examples here on the slide, but there is a lot more information on this website, so we encourage you to take a look at it. So financial assistance, sorry, I've given you here a few examples of financial assistance for the purposes of licensing. So the Ontario Bridging Participant Assistance Program, this is a bursary program for those who want to take a bridging program with a high cost. If you cannot afford a bridging program, you may be eligible for a bursary. These are given out based on financial need. So go on the website for more information. There are also 2 loans, the Newcomer Skilled Loan Program and the Immigrant Access Fund microloans. So these are loans for the purposes of certification. So they will cover, those are loans, they're not bursaries, so you do have to pay them back. But they cover things like skills upgrading, retraining, the licensing process costs, which we mentioned earlier, and so on. So there are a variety of supports out there for you. So yes, the licensing process is expensive, but there is support out there if that is what is stopping you. So for more information, contact these loan programs. Okay, so this is it for the formal part of the presentation. We're going to answer some questions right now. And after that, I'm going to mention a couple of more things before we wrap up.
Thanks, Eva. Wow, that was a lot of great information. It was a great overview about the professions in Ontario and what you may need to go through either before coming to Canada or when you're in Canada, and how to get into those professions, whether they're regulated or non-regulated, the documents needed for each profession, the timelines in which it takes in order to get a profession, which many will have to research, but it may take a while, but contact that regulatory body to find out. Job search tips, program supports, financial supports, alternative careers for immediate employment. There is tons of information, great resources, and everything will be sent to those who have registered for the webinar. So you will get a recording of this, and you'll get the PowerPoint slides. We did have a lot of questions, but for time purposes, we'll try to keep it more general. So those who have more or who ask more specific questions, you can contact GEO. We'll provide the website and contact information later. But some general questions that were asked were, where can one find out if their professions are regulated or not?
Okay, that's a very good question. So I would suggest, I mean, of course, you can get the answer to that by doing some research, but some ways to find out whether your profession is regulated in Ontario or not is by visiting the GEO website. So the GEO website, and I will provide that to you before we end today. The GEO website will list you the health and non-health regulated professions, as well as the skilled or the compulsory trades. So on our website, you will see which professions are regulated and for which professions you need a license. You can also research the profession, just perform a regular search online, and that may give you the answer, but I would direct people to our website to get the specific answer for that.
Perfect. Some people had questions around the title explanation, such as the accountant. Can you explain the quote-unquote title profession more?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so regulated professions can fall in two categories, either protected title or protected title and acts. So the difference between those two is that some professions have only a protected title, meaning you can do the work of that profession without a license, but you cannot use the title. So you can do accounting work, but you cannot put on your business card that you are a chartered professional accountant. Okay, so this is an example of a profession which just has a protected title. Other types of regulated professions have protected titles and acts. So these are all health professions, as well as, for example, lawyers. So for those professions, the title is protected, but so is the actual work. You cannot do the work of a lawyer if you don't have a license. So really, if you are a lawyer, your options are very limited, because if you want to work in that field, if you want to be doing the work of a lawyer, you have no choice but to go for a license. So it's the same with, for example, a veterinarian. You cannot do the work of a veterinarian if you don't have a license. So these professions have a protected title and protected acts. So I hope that this makes sense. If anyone has more specific questions about this or about their specific occupation, they're welcome to contact GEO, and we will provide you our contact information. If you're not sure where your profession falls, we will be happy to help you with that.
Perfect. Just for time's sake, I'll let Eva go through some of the PowerPoints that she did want to share.
Okay, thank you. So I just have slightly one more slide. So I just wanted to let everybody know that GEO does live webinars. So we deliver webinars on the following regulated professions: so engineering, social work, teaching and early childhood education, accounting, and the skilled trades. So we have in-depth webinars on the licensing in these particular professions. Our webinars always take place on Wednesday mornings, Toronto time, and on our website you can see what that means for the different time zones across the world. We also offer a webinar through the Ministry of Labor, which talks about workplace rights and responsibilities. So our webinars take place, as I said, on Wednesday, and each Wednesday we talk about a different topic. To see a schedule of our upcoming webinars and to register, I have provided you the link here. So please, if you are in one of these professions, or if you want to learn more about Ontario workplace rights and responsibilities, please join us for our webinars. Those are free, and they're there to provide you with more information. So I wanted to leave you with GEO's contact information. So if you have any specific questions about your situation, or if you want to talk about something covered in the presentation today, please feel free to either call us or email us, or of course visit our website for more information. So I wanted to thank you for your time today and wish everyone a great day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eva. That, again, was such good information. All the programs and supports that Eva did mention throughout the presentation, such as the bridging programs and mentorship programs, they're all resources It's not mandatory to go through them, but they are very helpful when looking for a job, and networking, again, as she mentioned, it's one of the important ways to find a job. So I do also want to thank everyone for joining us on this webinar, and we really hope that you did find this information very useful and helpful. And again, GEO can be contacted with further questions, further personal questions, and the contact information is there. So thank you very much, and have a lovely day.